This is our second video, and before we get started, I just wanted to say how much I really appreciate all of you that watched the first video and your comments. And this is exactly why I do it, because I want you all to try these recipes. Several of you did with the fettuccine alfredo and the Parmesan chicken, and some of you even sent pictures, and that was just wonderful. So today I'm making our family recipe of marinara sauce, and I have all the ingredients here, and there will be some close-ups of this, so you will have but we'll also list them in the comments, the exact recipe. So what I'm going to do here is, and again, I'm using the electric skillet just because you can see it better, and we have a camera above it. So I'm going to turn this on to 300, and like I said before, these tend to get a little hot, so I may be adjusting the temp, but normally I would do this on my stove top, and I have a gas stove, and you know, it's easy to regulate. So I turned that on, and I'm going to put in, this is 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. And if you've ever watched me cook or been around me, I don't measure, so this is a challenge for me to actually measure the ingredients, but it's fine and it's gonna work. So I'm letting that heat up, because what you want is for the oil to become a little wavy. You don't want it to start steaming, but just get a little wavy. And then we're gonna start with our onions, and then our garlic, and the rest of the ingredients, and I'll talk about them as we go along. All right, so several of the people that made the Alfredo and the Parmesan chicken, like I said, they sent me pictures, and one of the young men, he actually services our pool, DJ, and he made dinner for his family. And I think he's like 18 or 19 years old, so that was just thrilling to me. But like I said, we do this because I want to share these recipes with friends and family, and even my kids. You know, they watched me growing up make these, but now they have an actual record of them, and they can, you know, do them for their families. One thing that's very important to me, especially when my kids were growing up, is to have a family meal. At our church, we've been studying a series of called Family Matters, and it is so important to have family time, and there's no place better than around the table. I grew up like that, having family dinner together, and it gives your family an opportunity to talk about your day and anything. So these are basic recipes, and the first two have been more Italian, but we'll probably venture out. But this is something that you can make for your family easily, and you will make enough that you could freeze some and have it for another meal. And it is getting to the point where it's starting to be wavy, so I'm going to add this is 3/4 cup of minced onion. And you want to hear that sizzle when you put the onion in your pan, whether you're doing it on the stove or you can also do it in an electric skillet. So this is just one batch of my marinara sauce, and it is our family recipe, but you could double, triple this. You could start it in a bigger pot so you have plenty of room. Now this marinara sauce is different than the heavier pasta sauce that I make a lot. This is just cooks in about an hour, and it's delicious. My grandmother called this her summer sauce because it was a lighter version of the tomato sauce, and we'd make it in the summer. It's, you know, as the summer approaches, the warmer weather approaches, which in Texas it's already here, you want something lighter, and this is the perfect thing for that. So I'm going to let these cook for a few minutes, turning this. I have this set on about 275, but you can regulate it on your stove probably a little better than an electric skillet. I'm going to let these onions just cook a little more. Probably a good, I'd say probably 3-4 minutes. You just till they get a little bit transparent. You don't want them to brown, but just, let's see, turn that up just a little bit. Okay. And we will show you some close-up pictures of this, but you can see how they're kind of getting a little transparent here. And I'm going to heat that up. And then I'm going to add my garlic. This is 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, which is about 6 cloves. Okay, now I just used the jarred garlic just because I didn't have enough of the cloves, but you can use fresh and just dice it up pretty small. And also, if you see the onions, they're very small dice here, which that's what I like, but if you like bigger chunks of onion, do what you want. It's perfectly fine. Okay. And again, let that cook for a couple minutes, about a minute or two actually. And then I'm going to start adding my tomato products. Now, I use Hunt's tomatoes because that's what my mom used. That's what I'm familiar with. But you can use, there's a lot of good brands, Contadina, Cento. So use whatever you like. I kind of steer away from the store brands because to me, they just don't have the quality of the bigger brands. Okay, so this is perfect. If you can see, the garlic is just a bit in there and you can smell it. Once you start smelling that garlic, this is the perfect time to add your tomatoes. So I have 2 cans of, I use petite diced tomatoes, but if you like yours chunkier, you can definitely use just diced tomatoes. So I have 2 cans here. And I like to let the tomatoes saute a little bit with the garlic and onion first. Give that just about, you know, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And then I'm going to add my fresh basil, which I actually have a basil plant, and I love having fresh basil. You can use dried. This is a 1/4 cup of fresh, and if you had to use dried, I would probably use maybe a tablespoon, but I love using fresh basil. It just smells heavenly. So we're gonna let that cook for a few minutes, and then I'm going to add the basil and my seasoning before I add the rest of the tomato products. Okay, so as you can see, it's starting to bubble a little bit, and that's what you want. And now I'm going to add my fresh basil. And stir that up in there. Okay, this smells so good, and I'm so hungry. But yeah, this looks great. I just want to give that just about a minute stir, because those tomatoes were already kind of starting to steam and bubble. Okay, sometimes in the canned tomatoes you get a little bit of skin, so I pull that out if I see it, but it's not a big deal if you don't. And now I'm going to add my seasonings. So this is a tablespoon of the coarse garlic salt and parsley, which I use that in so much that I cook, and 1 teaspoon of coarse black pepper. So I'm going to use both of those. I just put them together. So, and then I'm going to stir that up again. This does take some time to get it started, but once you get everything in here, you just let it cook on a very low for about, I mean, it's good after 30 minutes, but I usually let it cook for about an hour. So I like the way that looks right now. So I'm going to add 2 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes. And one thing I didn't mention, on the petite dice, I do drain that extra liquid off. It does, there's not a lot in there, but it's just so it's not watery. Okay, so that's 1 can. And then I'm going to add this 2nd can. Okay, and give that a stir through. And then I am going to add this can of tomato sauce. Usually it's hard to find these bigger cans, but I usually would just use two 14.5-ounce cans of tomato sauce. Okay, so now you can see that it's kind of a little thick, but you can always, once it cooks, you can add some water to it if it's too thick for you, but it looks great. So I'm going to put the lid on this, and I'm going to turn the heat down to about 250, which would be like a medium low. And I'm going to lid it and just let it saute for, like I said, about 30 minutes. It's fine, but I let it go for about an hour. Okay? Marinara sauce. So the difference between the marinara sauce and the cooked 8 to 10 hours, 12 hours pasta sauce is I add a little more product. So I would add another can of the crushed tomatoes and a can of tomato paste, about just a small can. And I would let that cook all day. I'd get it started in this, and then I'd put it in my slow cooker and let it cook for overnight or all day. And it's a thicker, richer, heartier tomato sauce. And that's what I make when I'm serving like meatballs or even ground beef in it. So like a meat sauce. But this is great just over pasta. You could add protein to this if you like. Chicken would work, ground beef, meatballs, whatever you like. You could add that to this as well. But I like it just the way it is. So, okay, so we're going to let that cook, and then we're going to come back and plate it with some pasta. I'm going to make some rigatoni, and also we're going to do our salad. Okay? Okay, we are back. The sauce has been cooking for about an hour. It tastes great. I don't know if you can see this, but it's steaming, so it's very hot. I cooked a pound of rigatoni in salted water. So we're going to plate this, and I'll show you how I serve it for me. Okay, so I've got the rigatoni, and then I'm going to add some sauce to it. I'm going to pick this up. If you can see this. And you can use as much sauce or as little sauce as you like. And then I like to add some Parmesan cheese. And until you put the Parmesan cheese on, this is totally vegetarian. There's no dairy, there's no meat product or anything in this. And then I also like a little bit of red pepper. Just gives it that extra little kick. And you can put the red pepper in the sauce, but you know, it depends on your family, if you have kids or whatever. So I'm going to taste one of these. And that is so good. So it's a great, healthy meal for a nice light dinner. Okay? So we're going to break for a little bit here and then come back and show you something else you can do with the sauce. Okay, so now if you notice, we have another plate of food here, and this is cheese tortellini. What I did is I took 3 cups of the marinara sauce, and it was already hot, so I put it on the stove, and I added 1 cup of heavy cream, and it makes this beautiful pink sauce, and it is so yummy. I love this on cheese tortellini or cheese ravioli, or you could put it just on regular pasta. So same thing, what I would do is top it with some Parmesan cheese, although the tortellini is cheese filled, but I like a little extra. And then the red pepper flakes. So, and there's still, I don't know if you can see this, but there's still a lot of sauce left. So once you're done eating, if you're going to use this sauce within the next 3 or 4 days, it's fine in the refrigerator. But past that, I would freeze it. And what I would do to freeze it is unplug it, let it completely cool. And I use these great containers. This is a 32-ounce one. You're only going to fill it up. You need to leave at least a ½ an inch, because if you do freeze it, it will expand. So, and it'll stay in the freezer for 6 months, 4 to 6 months. So if you have a really good freezer, if your freezer tends to get like iced a lot, One thing I do as well is I take saran wrap or plastic wrap and cover the top, but I tap it down so that it's actually covering the sauce. So if ice does form, it forms on top of the saran wrap. Okay, we're gonna stop here for a second and then we're gonna come back and I'm gonna show you our salad. So see you back in a minute. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is the testa salad. So what I have in this bowl, and I have a clear bowl so you can see, is 3 cups of romaine, 3 cups of iceberg, both chopped, 1 cup of grape tomatoes sliced in half, about 1 cup of English cucumbers in half and then sliced, and then about half a can of black olives. My secret ingredient to the salad, because my goal has been to make it taste like my grandmother's, and I think this is the ingredient. And I don't always do this when I'm cooking for the masses, but when I do it for home or people that are coming over for company, is I do just a little bit of very tiny diced onion, and it gives it so much flavor. So I'm going to show you how I make it, and then I'm going to give you the measurements of the dressing. So there's only 4 ingredients in the dressing. It's extra virgin olive oil, and this is what I do. And then red wine vinegar. I never measure. Some garlic salt. I'm actually going to use the other side just because it's easier and faster. And then some black pepper. And I use the coarse black pepper. Love it. Okay, and then I'm just going to mix it up. So this salad would serve a lot of people, probably 6 to 8, but my family loves salad, so it will not go to waste. So the measurements for this, and I played with it, is a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar, a 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil, 1 tablespoon of the coarse garlic salt, and a teaspoon of black pepper. Now you can add what other vegetables or other lettuces you like. I like mine very crispy, so that's why I tend to use the iceberg and romaine. You can definitely add the leaf lettuces or greens of some kind, the baby greens. And if you don't like black olives, omit them or add green olives. It's just as good. So that's it. And it looks great. I'm going to take my fork and taste it. Really good. And that's it for today. This is our pasta and salad. So have a great day. See you next time.